teachers, my name is Nikki, for those of you that don't already know me. I do the taping every week, so usually I'm behind the camera, but this week I am telling the story. I'm the early childhood intern, so typically I teach in preschool classrooms, but I'm also in charge of the 11:30 hour, so I also get to teach the class that ranges 2s turning 3 to 3rd grade. So I have a wide range of kids that I tell the story to, and I have a little bit of information after the story to tell you guys about some new materials for your classrooms in regards to bringing out the Bible and showing the kids the scriptures. So after I tell the story, I will tell you guys a little more about that. The story for this week is The Great Family, which is our first Desert Box story. So the Desert Box will be back in your guys' room starting this week. And I'm just going to go for it and tell you the story, and then I'll tell you about a little bit more stuff after. This is the Desert Box. So many wonderful and amazing things happen in the desert that we need to bring a little piece of it into our classroom so that we can talk about those stories. But we can't bring the whole desert into our room, so we'll just use a piece of it. The desert is a dangerous place. People only go there when they have to. When people do venture out into the desert, they must wear many clothes because the sun is burning hot. And when the wind blows, it changes the shape of the desert. And it also blows the stinging sand. So people have to wear many clothes to keep them safe from the sun and the sand. And as the wind blows and the desert changes, it is easy to get lost. At night, the desert is very cold. And so people must wear many, many clothes to keep them warm. There's no water in the desert. It is very hard to find something to drink. There are very few plants because there is so little water. And so it is very hard to find something to eat. The desert is a dangerous place. And people only go there when they have to. When the flood was over, and the creatures of the earth went out in all 4 directions, they filled it again with life. And life starts from rivers. And so rivers are where people gathered. And they began to make small towns that became great big cities. And one of the most ancient and great of these cities is called Ur. In the city of Ur, people believed that there were many gods. There was a god for every tree and every rock, every flower, for the river and for the sky, and for the land. And in this land, in this city of Ur, lived Abram and Sarai. they decided to move with their family. To a place called Haran. So they walked toward Haran with their sheep and with their donkeys and with their servants and with their family. It took a long time. They knew that their journey was almost over. And then they were there. Sometimes, Abram would go out to the edge of the desert and look out across the sand and into the sky. And then God came so close to Abram, and Abram came so close to God that he knew what God wanted him to do. God wanted Abram and Sarai to move to a new place. And God made Abram a promise that his family would be great. Abram and Sarai did what God said. They moved out into the desert to the west of Haran, and they walked toward a place called Canaan. They went with their sheep and with their tents and with their helpers. And this time, Abram's nephew Lot came with them. Before, there had been a river to show them the way and to give them water. But this time, there was no river. Nothing here to show them the way or to give them and their animals and their friends and their helpers anything to drink. Next, they came to a place called Shechem. And Abraham climbed up to a hill and he prayed to God. And God was there. So Abram made an altar. He made an altar to mark that place. And then they went on. Next, they came to a place near Bethel. And Abram prayed again, and God was there also. So Abram built an altar to mark the place. God was not just there, but God was everywhere. Then they went on to a place called Hebron. And that is where they made their home, near the forest called Mamre. One night, God brought Abram outside. And God told Abram to look out at the stars in the sky. And God came so close to Abram. And Abram came so close to God that Abram knew what God wanted. And he knew what God was saying. He was saying, you will become the father of a great nation. You will have children, as many as there are stars in the sky or grains of sand in the desert. And Abraham laughed. Then he went and he told Sarai. They were very, very old, so it would be very hard to have children. God's promise sounded impossible. But God said to change their names. Abram became Abraham, which means father of many. And Sarai became Sarah, which means princess.